This is a special report from ABC News Digital.
Hello, I'm Dan Kleffler in New York with this ABC News Digital special report. A question: could rumblings in the deep be the reason why we are seeing rare oarfish coming ashore in California? Two washed up last week, and some scientists are now looking into urban legends of animals being able to predict an earthquake. In fact, Japanese lore says that oarfish surface and beach themselves as a sign of an impending quake. 14 washed ashore Japan in March 2010, and it was 1 year before that big earthquake in 2011. Most scientists say, though, there is no concrete evidence that these bottom-dwelling fish sense movement in seismic fault lines.
There's a big difference between suggesting something like that and actually proving what did an animal sense. What did it feel that we didn't feel that told us about a coming event?
Proving it is exactly what scientists want to do. Animals on land, like dogs, have shown they have a sense for predicting tremors, in fact.
Something and went uphill in Indonesia, in India, and other countries, and you think, really?
Which is why some geologists are trying to study oarfish behavior a little more closely, trying to turn perhaps superstition into an actual super science. So, with that, I want to bring in Dr. Phil Hastings from the Scripps Institution of Oceanography at the University of California, San Diego. Doctor, thank you so much for being with us today. We appreciate this description of separating between fact and fiction.
My pleasure.
So, is there any possibility that oarfish, from the place where they spend most of their time in the ocean, do they get a peak of seismic activity?
I know of no credible scientific evidence to support that assertion. These fishes are generally found very far from shore, and so would not necessarily be interacting with fault lines like that. And frankly, I know of no sort of sensory systems that they might have that would allow them to detect that.
We look at these pictures and they really are amazing. How deep do they actually live in the ocean?
Well, they really are truly amazing fishes. They're found from the surface waters down to maybe 1,000 meters, sometimes to 2,000 meters or so. We of course rarely ever see them until they come to the surface, and then unfortunately, rarely see them until they strand on the beaches.
Has one ever been found alive?
Well, certainly they've been found alive, but not kept alive for very long. There are some recent videos of some swimming in shallow water. But in general, the ones that are seen are stranded individuals that do not live for very long.
And about how big can these things get? Because you look at the size, I mean, it's just massive.
They are very large. In fact, one beached itself here in Southern California in the San Diego area in 1996. It was 7.3 meters in length. So very, very substantial fishes. In fact, the longest fish in the world.
So what exactly are you looking for then when you're dissecting the animal? Are you looking for what it's eating, its habits?
Yes, we did a detailed dissection yesterday with the NOAA staff as well, and we looked at its gut contents, the general condition of the specimen, whether it was reproductive. It turns out the one that washed up in Oceanside was in fact a very healthy looking ripe female. So I don't think there was any sort of distress in the fish other than probably getting stranded in the surf zone, becoming disoriented and eventually succumbing to that.
So what do you say then, maybe not perhaps applied to the oarfish, but just animals in general, and some of the science and some of the study that's been put behind of being able to actually predict major Earth events like this?
Well, again, I don't know of any credible evidence that fishes have any ability at all to do this. And in fact, I would put my money on the geologist's prediction instead of the fish's prediction.
And I guess it may seem like an obvious question, but why is it that we see them so rarely?
Well, it's an offshore species that is not at home in the shallow waters where people are found and where people might readily observe them. They occupy the surface waters, but they do dive fairly deeply. And so we rarely ever see them unless they're in trouble.
They hunt other large fish as well, I'm assuming.
No, actually they have a very small mouth and actually no teeth, and the available evidence indicates they feed on euphausids, which are small shrimp-like creatures that are quite common in the open ocean.
Is it still somewhat of a mystery then, because they are so difficult to kind of capture?
Well, we still don't understand a lot about their biology. For instance, we don't know how old, how long they live, how quickly they grow, how old a 7-meter long specimen is. We just simply have no information about that.
When you come across something like this and you're dissecting it, what goes through your mind then as a scientist, and you're able to kind of get this very rare species in front of you?
Well, first of all, I'm very excited to have this sort of a job where I get the opportunity to see things like this that other people don't get to see. We also are trying to look for unique observations that haven't been made before, that we can actually sort of progress our science to some extent.
Well, it has been a fascinating discovery. We certainly appreciate your time. Dr. Phil Hastings from the Scripps Institution of Oceanography at the University of California, San Diego. Thank you. Of course, we have more on the mysterious oarfish on abcnews.com. For now, I'm Dan Kleffler in New York with this ABC News Digital Special Report.